are trigonometric equations. Including trigonometric functions, finding an unknown, which is an argument to a trigonometric function.
Unit circle. If you recall, these values will vary in their signs. It may be positive or negative depending on which quadrant the angle is in. So there are four quadrants: quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. We can use the acronym ASTC, or All Students Take Calculus, to help us to remember which trigonometric ratio is what in each quadrant. So for A, which means all are positive, represents the quadrant 1. S represents the quadrant 2, which means sign is positive. For quadrant 3, which is represented by T, means tangent is positive. And for quadrant 4, which is C, it means cosine is positive.
When you are dealing with first-degree trigonometric equations, we'll be using the special angles, reference angles.
This is a chart of the radians and degrees of special angles: 30, 45, 60, and 90 degrees. Find the values of sine, cosine, and tangent. Commonly used in special triangles: 30, 60, 90, 45, 45, 90. Cosine is equal to 1 cosine and tangent 0. 30 degrees, or pi over 6, is 1/2 sine, square root of 3 over 2. Pi over 4, or 45 degrees, is square root 2 over 2, square root 2 over 2, and 1. And pi over 3 is 60, square root 3 over 2, 1/2, and square root of 3. Then pi over 2, or 90 degrees, is 1 sine, cosine 0, and undefined, because 1 over 0 is cannot be. Set of radians. 0, pi over 6, pi over 4, pi over 3, pi over 2, 2 pi over 3, 3 pi over 4, 5 pi over 6 pi, and 2 pi is equal. Pi over 6 is 30 degrees, pi over 4 is 45 degrees, pi over 3 is 60 degrees, pi over 2 is 90 degrees, 2 pi over 3 is 120 degrees, 3 pi over 4 is 135 degrees, 5 pi over 6 is 150 degrees, pi is 180 degrees, and 2 pi is 360 degrees. First example is sine x minus 1 equals to 0. First thing is you have to transpose negative 1 to 0, then sine x is equals to 1. The final solution is find it to the unit circle, wherein the sine is equals to 1, so negative 3 pi over 2 and pi over 2, or it is equals to negative 270 degrees and 90 degrees. For sine x is equals to 2 plus secant x. So you have to remember tangent is equals to sine over cosine, and secant is equals to the reciprocal of cosine. So you can see that cosine x is the same, so you have to cancel it out and multiply all numbers to cosine x. So 2 sine x plus 4 sine x cosine x is equals to 2 cosine plus 1. So you have to simplify this form, the first equation, to become 2 sine x 1 plus 2 cosine x is equals to 2 cosine x plus 1. Then equal to 0. Equate to 0. So the first solution is 1 plus 2 cosine x equals to 0. Transpose 1 to the other side of the equation, so it becomes 2 cosine x equals to negative 1, and divide it by 2. So find an equation that is equals to negative 1/2 cosine in the unit circle. Then the next equation is 2 sine x equals negative 1 equals to 0. So divide by 2 again and find an equation wherein sine is 1 half in the unit circle. So this equation can be pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, and 2 pi over 3.
So here are some examples of equation with one term. So 1 plus cos theta is equals to 0. In order to find negative 1, you need to transpose positive 1 to the other side, which will become negative 1. And the value for theta will be pi or 180 in degrees. So another example of equation with two or more terms for trigonometric equations, we have 2 cosine x tangent x is equals to 2 cosine x. So in order to find or equate it to 0, you need to transpose 2 cosine x to the other side, which will become negative. And you will have 2 cosine x times tangent x minus 1 is equals to 0, which is the simplified equation. In order to get the negative 1, since we have two the same terms, we need to cancel them out. And since the other one is positive and the other is negative, so we have negative 1. In order to equate it to 0, you need to divide. To equate this to 0, you need to divide 2 by on both sides. So x is equals to pi over 2 or 90 degrees and 3 pi over 2 or 270 degrees. Another equation that you need to equate to 0 is tangent x minus 1 is equals to 0. So you need to transpose negative 1 to the other side of the equation, which will become positive 1. So x is equals to 2 pi over 4 or 45 degrees in unit circle.